They laughed at you in the storm, but they'll weep when they see you control the thunder. Some mistakes can be fixed. Others, they ruin lives. And fumbling a chosen one. That's the kind of mistake that haunts a soul forever. They didn't just mess up, they self-destructed. They thought they were discarding you like trash, but in reality, they threw away a winning lottery ticket. They spit on gold, thinking it was rust. And now, they're out here digging through the dirt, searching for something, someone like you. But guess what? There is no second you. There never will be. They had one chance, and they blew it. Like a fool who drops a diamond into the ocean and then tries to scoop water, hoping to get it back. Pathetic. Before we go deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. Not just for you, but for every chosen one who has ever been discarded, overlooked, or underestimated. Every time you do, you push this message further, making sure those who need it most hear it. And trust me, this truth needs to be heard. Now, let's talk about you, the chosen one. You were never just another option. You were the storm that shook their stagnant world, the light that made their darkness bearable, the force that pushed them to be better, even when they didn't deserve you. And what did they do? They betrayed, abandoned, underestimated, or discarded you. And now, reality is punching them in the face. They laughed when you walked away. But who's laughing now? Because while they're stuck in the same miserable cycle, you are rising, you are evolving, you are becoming untouchable. They thought they broke you, but all they did was set you free. And now they watch from a distance, silently suffering, choking on the regret they created. That's the thing about fumbling a chosen one. It's not just a loss, it's a curse. Regret will claw at them like an animal in a cage. They will replay every moment, realizing too late that you were the best thing that ever happened to them. They'll see your glow up, feel your energy, and know deep in their soul that they can never have you again. And that pain, that's the price of their foolishness. But here's where you win. You don't look back. A lion never explains itself to sheep. A chosen one doesn't lower their energy for the unworthy. You were never the loss. They were. Because while they're drowning in regret, you are thriving in power. So let them suffer. Let them regret. Let them sit in the mess they made. Because once a chosen one leaves, there is no coming back. And thank you, yes, you, the chosen one. Whether this is your first time here, or you've been walking this path with us, know this. Your energy is rare, your presence is powerful, and your glow-up is inevitable. If you're ready to make them regret every second they ever doubted you, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a number 77 in the comments to claim your power. Because trust me, this is only the beginning. And now, let's break it all down, step by step. If you truly are a chosen one, you'll feel it. You won't want to click away, because deep down, you'll know this message was meant for you. Let's get started. Number 1, they let go of their one-way ticket to greatness. Now they're stuck in the same miserable loop. Some people don't just lose good things, they lose their destiny. And when you fumble a chosen one, you don't just lose a person, you lose the only real shot you had at becoming something greater. They had one chance, one golden opportunity to align with something bigger than themselves, and they threw it away like it was nothing. They thought they were walking away from just another person. Wrong. They walked away from the very thing that could have elevated them beyond their own limits. And now, they're stuck, spinning their wheels in the same dead-end cycle, watching from the sidelines as you step into the power they never deserved to witness. See, when the universe places a chosen one in someone's life, it's never by accident. It's a divine opportunity, a bridge to something they could never reach on their own. But instead of walking across it, they set fire to it. Instead of recognizing your value, they mocked it, doubted it, played with it. They thought they were outsmarting the system, like they could discard something rare and just find another like you around the corner. Biggest mistake of their life. Because you weren't just another person in their life. You were their upgrade, their access to levels of success, insight and elevation that their small minds could never comprehend. And that's the thing about being chosen. Your energy isn't just a presence, it's a force. It's the kind of power that shifts realities, unlocks doors, and turns dust into gold. When you enter a space, things start moving. Opportunities appear, ideas flourish, stagnant energy is replaced with momentum. That's not an accident. That's the system working in your favor. But what happens when someone fumbles their access to that kind of power? They get left behind. They become ghosts in a world that was supposed to be theirs. They sit on the sidelines, watching the same energy they disrespected become the very thing they now envy. And let's be real, they'll never admit it. Pride won't let them. They'll act unbothered. They'll pretend you never mattered. But deep down, oh, they know. They know exactly what they lost. They see the difference between their stagnant life now and the glow they had when they were in your presence. They'll try to replicate the energy, try to find another you, try to latch onto someone else with that same rare magic, but it won't work. Because your essence, it can't be copied, it can't be replaced. And the deeper they spiral into mediocrity, the clearer that truth will become. And one day, when life forces them to slow down, when they're alone, staring at the ceiling, running through the what-ifs in their head, they'll feel it, the weight of their mistake, the slow, suffocating realization that they didn't just lose you, they lost everything that came with you, the insight, the elevation, the divine alignment. And that's a pain no amount of distractions can numb. Meanwhile, you're thriving, expanding, becoming untouchable, because here's the ultimate truth. Chosen ones don't need anyone who doesn't recognize their value. When someone fumbles you, the universe removes them for a reason, and every step you take forward is just another reminder to them of how badly they messed up. Because at the end of the day, you weren't just valuable, you were the value. And now they get to spend the rest of their life realizing that you were their only real shot at greatness, and they blew it. Number 2, they couldn't handle the truth, so they destroyed the only mirror that showed it. Weak people don't hate you. They hate the version of themselves they see when they stand next to you. You weren't just another person in their life. You were their mirror, the one thing that exposed them to who they really were. Not the fake confidence, not the lies they told themselves, not the carefully crafted illusion they hid behind, but the raw, unfiltered truth. And the truth, it scared them. You showed them their strengths, their potential, the greatness buried beneath their excuses. But you also reflected their weaknesses, their insecurities, their cowardice. And that was too much for them to handle. Instead of facing themselves, instead of growing, instead of stepping up, they did what weak people always do. They ran. They shattered the mirror. They convinced themselves that you were the problem, that you were too much, too intense, too different, too demanding, when in reality you were too real. And realness, it's a threat to those who survive on lies. Because standing next to you forced them to see everything they tried to ignore, the potential they refused to step into, the laziness they covered up with excuses, The truth that whispered, "You could be so much more," while they clung to comfort like a crutch. So they pushed you away, not because they didn't need you, but because they weren't ready to face themselves. And now they're stuck with the same distorted, broken version of themselves that they refuse to change. They thought getting rid of you would bring them peace, but all it did was leave them alone with their own demons. And here's the twist. The very things they rejected in you were the exact things they needed most. Your ambition, it made them feel small. Your confidence, it exposed their insecurity. Your wisdom, it made their ignorance unbearable. Your energy, it revealed how lifeless they really were. So instead of learning from you, instead of embracing the growth you offered, they let pride and fear drive you away. And now, they watch from the shadows, seeing you rise, knowing deep down that they could have been beside you. But they chose the easy road, and the easy road leads nowhere. But here's what they never understood. You weren't trying to tear them down. You were trying to lift them up. You saw the version of them they didn't even believe in yet. You were willing to push them, support them, help them step into their power, and they rejected that. Now, that opportunity is gone, and they will never, ever find another you. They'll try to surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear, people who don't challenge them, don't push them, don't demand more from them. But deep down, they'll know the truth. They had someone who saw them, believed in them, wanted more for them, and they threw it all away. And here's the ultimate irony. While you're out there evolving, refining, becoming even greater, they will remain exactly where you left them. The same fears, the same excuses, the same patterns, looping over and over again. Because the reality is this: when you fumble a chosen one, you don't just lose a person. You lose your one shot at breaking free from the version of yourself that's keeping you stuck. And now, that realization will haunt them forever. Number 3. They rejected the power that was quietly making them unstoppable. Now, they're powerless. Some people only realize they had a guardian angel after they burned their own wings. They thought it was all them. The success, the energy, the clarity, the progress. They convinced themselves that it was their own doing. Foolish. What they failed to see was that you weren't just with them, you were for them. Your presence wasn't just company, it was a force. An unseen, unexplainable power that elevated everything it touched. And they rejected it. They moved like they didn't need you, like they could do just fine without the energy that had been quietly shifting their entire reality in their favor. Biggest mistake of their life. Because now, they will feel the absence. At first, it won't be obvious. People like that never notice right away. They'll go on thinking nothing has changed. But slowly, piece by piece, their world will start falling apart. The momentum they once had, gone. The clarity they used to feel, clouded. The fire that pushed them forward, fading. And they'll start to wonder, why does nothing feel the same? They'll try to ignore it, try to push through, but deep down, something will gnaw at them. That nagging thought, the one they'll try so hard to silence. Was it them, or was it me? And the answer will become clear. It was never them. It was you. You were the energy shifting things in their favor, the silent advantage they never acknowledged, the force behind every opportunity they thought was just luck. They mistook divine alignment for coincidence. They mistook your influence for their own power. And now they're realizing, without you, nothing feels right. That's the thing about a chosen one's presence. It doesn't just sit in a room, it transforms it. It doesn't just exist, it elevates. It awakens something in people, whether they recognize it or not. But here's the harsh reality. Not everyone is meant to hold on to that kind of power. Some people are too blind, too ungrateful, too arrogant to see what's standing right in front of them. And for those people, losing you is the beginning of their downfall. They thought they could replace your energy. They can't. They thought they could find someone else to fuel their fire. They won't. Because what you brought to their life wasn't just rare, it was one of one. And now, the cracks in their world will start showing. The relationships they thought were strong, they'll weaken. The vision they once had, it will blur. The drive they felt, it will disappear. And they'll keep searching for the missing piece. But the truth is, that piece is gone. Forever. You see, when someone fumbles a chosen one, there are no second chances. The universe does not offer reruns. The doors you once opened for them, closed. The energy you poured into them, redirected. Everything they had access to through you, cut off. They weren't just losing a person, they were losing divine favor. And that's the part that will haunt them the most. Because deep down, they'll always know. With you, they could have been unstoppable. Without you, they are just another lost soul, trying to find their way in the dark. Too bad they didn't see it, until it was too late. Number 4. They will be haunted by what if, a nightmare they can never wake up from. Some mistakes fade with time. Others, they carve themselves into your soul and never let go. And losing a chosen one, that's the kind of mistake that haunts forever. They thought they were making the right move. They thought walking away, betraying you, underestimating you, or discarding you was just another decision, one that wouldn't matter in the long run. They were wrong, horribly, devastatingly wrong. Because now, regret is their shadow. It follows them, whispers to them, reminds them of the one thing they can never escape, the truth. They had something priceless, something most people would kill to have, a chosen one in their corner, a rare soul that elevated them, guided them, and unknowingly protected them from things they didn't even realize were out to destroy them. And instead of cherishing it, they threw it away. At first, they won't feel it. People like that never do. They'll go about their life, thinking they made the right call, thinking they've moved on. But the universe has a way of revealing the weight of a mistake at just the right moment. And when it hits, oh, it's going to hit like a train with no brakes. It starts with small things. One day, they'll see something, a place, a song, a random moment that reminds them of you. And it will come with a sting, a tiny flicker of discomfort in their chest. They'll shake it off, but the more time passes, the more these reminders will pile up. And then, one day, it won't just be a flicker, it will be a storm. They'll start to wonder, what if I had valued them more? What if I hadn't been so blind? What if I had fought harder instead of walking away? What if I had realized they were the best thing that ever happened to me? The what-ifs will grow louder. They'll try to silence them, distract themselves with people, places, vices. It won't work, because regret doesn't just sit quietly. It eats at you from the inside. And the worst part, it's irreversible. See, most people get a chance to fix their mistakes. But fumbling a chosen one, that's a mistake you only get to make once. Because once you're gone, you are gone forever. No begging, no apologies, no desperate attempts to come back will change the fact that they had something special and they destroyed it with their own hands. And now, they get to live with that pain. They'll watch from the sidelines as you thrive, glowing, growing, evolving into everything they swore you'd never be. And that's when the regret will turn into torment. Because now, every success you have is a reminder of how badly they messed up. Every win you celebrate is proof that they were never needed. Every step you take forward is another nail in the coffin of their own foolishness. And here's the cruel irony. If they had just opened their eyes, if they had just seen your value when they had the chance, they could have been part of that journey. They could have stood beside you, not behind you, watching you from a distance. But they chose wrong. And the universe, it does not forgive the ones who betray a divine connection. So let them suffer. Let them sit in their regret. Let the what-ifs haunt them every single night. Because while they are stuck in the past, drowning in the memories of what could have been, you are moving forward, unstoppable, unbothered, untouchable, and the only thing left for them to do is watch. Number 5. They underestimated the ripple effect of your absence. Now their world is falling apart. Some losses hurt for a moment. Others, they set off a chain reaction of suffering that never stops. And losing you, that was the first domino in their downfall. They thought walking away from you, disrespecting you, discarding you, or underestimating you wouldn't change a thing. They assumed their life would continue as normal, that they would still succeed, still glow, still move forward, as if you never existed. Foolish, delusional, because what they failed to understand is this. When a chosen one exits, everything shifts. Everything. See, you weren't just a presence in their life. You were a force, an anchor, a source of energy, a silent guide pulling them toward their highest potential. You were the reason things flowed, why doors opened, why opportunities seemed to appear effortlessly. That wasn't luck, that was you. And now that you're gone, the cracks are starting to show. The same things that once worked for them are now falling apart. Their wins feel smaller, their confidence is crumbling, and suddenly life feels a lot more difficult. At first, they won't connect the dots. People like that never do. They'll blame bad luck, blame others, blame anything but the real reason, your absence. But the truth is undeniable. You were the glue holding their life together. Now, they're unraveling. That business move they were so confident about flopped. That new relationship they thought would replace you, dull, empty, lifeless. That inner peace they bragged about, shattered. And little by little, it will start to sink in. Things were better when they were in my life. Why does everything feel off? Why do I feel like something's missing? But by the time they finally figure it out, it will be too late. Because you've moved on. You're not waiting for them to wake up. You're not looking back. You are ascending. And they are stuck. That's the thing about fumbling a chosen one. You don't just lose a person. You lose favor. You lose alignment. You lose access to a power most people never even get close to. They thought they could find someone else to fill your role. They can't. They thought they could create the same magic without you. They won't. They thought they would be just fine without you. They aren't. Because here's the hard truth. When you lose a chosen one, you don't just lose their presence. You lose everything they brought with them. The protection, the wisdom, the divine alignment, the silent blessings they never even realized were tied to you. And now, the same energy they took for granted is the one thing they will spend the rest of their life wishing they still had. But the universe does not rewind. There are no second chances. They made their choice, and now they have to live with it. While they sit in regret, trying to replace the irreplaceable, trying to fix the unfixable, you are rising. And every time they see you glowing, every time they hear your name, every time they realize that you are still thriving while they are crumbling, the weight of their mistake will grow heavier. That's the ripple effect of your absence. It doesn't just hit once, it keeps hitting. And them, they will feel every wave of it for the rest of their life. Number 6. They thought they were exposing your flaws, but all they did was reveal their own insecurities. Weak people don't destroy what they hate. They destroy what they fear. They tried to break you, tear you down, make you doubt yourself. They pointed fingers, spread lies, twisted your kindness, and made you out to be the problem. But here's what they didn't realize. The only thing they exposed was their own weakness. See, people don't attack what they don't feel threatened by. They don't sabotage what they don't envy. They don't try to dim a light unless it's shining too damn bright. So every insult, every betrayal, every attempt to make you feel small, it was never about you. It was always about them. Because deep down, they saw something in you that they lacked. A power they couldn't control. A presence they couldn't match. A resilience they could never fake. And instead of leveling up, instead of learning from you, instead of being inspired, they did what weak people always do. They tried to destroy what made them feel inferior. But here's where they failed. You are unbreakable. They thought if they threw dirt on your name, you'd crumble under the weight. Instead, you rose above it. They thought if they made you question yourself, you'd shrink to fit their comfort zone. Instead, you outgrew them. Because that's the thing about a chosen one. You don't fold under pressure. You become stronger, sharper, unstoppable. And now, they're left standing in their own mess. All the lies they told about you, they're being exposed. All the doubts they tried to plant in your mind, you've turned them into fuel. All the ways they tried to tear you down, they've only built you up. And the worst part? They see it now. They see that nothing they did worked. That you're not just standing, you're thriving. That every attempt to destroy you only backfired and revealed their own weakness. They'll try to act unbothered, pretend they don't care. But inside, oh, they feel it. They feel the weight of their own insecurities suffocating them. They feel the regret of knowing they had a chance to stand beside you, but they chose to tear you down instead. And now they have to live with it. Because the truth is, you were never the flawed one. You were never the problem. They were. They were the ones too insecure to celebrate your greatness, too weak to handle your strength, too small-minded to appreciate the presence of someone truly rare. And now, they get to watch from the shadows as you become everything they swore you wouldn't be. While they stay stuck in the same cycle of insecurity, jealousy, and self-destruction, you are evolving, elevating, and becoming completely untouchable. And that is their worst nightmare. Number 7. They lost an ally and gained a lesson. When you were by their side, they couldn't see the real value you brought into their life. They didn't understand that you weren't just another person. They were in the presence of an ally, someone who wasn't there just to be a warm body or someone to pass time with. No, you were there to uplift them, to challenge them, to push them toward their fullest potential. But they missed it, blinded by pride, fear, or perhaps their own insecurities. They saw your presence as just another thing to be taken for granted. What they didn't realize was that an ally like you doesn't come around often. You were the person who had their back when things got tough, who genuinely celebrated their wins, and who was always pushing them to do better, be better. As much as they may have told themselves they didn't need anyone, you were the one who truly understood their potential. You saw what they couldn't even see within themselves, this untapped greatness, buried under their doubts and fears. You didn't need them to be perfect. You needed them to be real, and you gave them the space to grow, to be flawed, and still push forward. You didn't just share your energy. You invested it in them. You poured into them, offering wisdom, support, encouragement, and sometimes even tough love when it was needed most. But all of this, all that you offered them, all that you did for them, they failed to recognize. Now that you're gone, they're left standing alone in a world that suddenly feels a lot colder, a lot quieter. Where once there was someone who pushed them, challenged them, and made them believe in things they never thought possible, now there is nothing. The void you've left behind is not just emotional, it's a loss of the very energy that kept them moving forward. They have no one to remind them of their worth, no one to push them when they want to give up. They're isolated, and in that isolation, they have nowhere to turn for guidance. They find themselves trapped in the echo of their own thoughts, replaying the moments when they could have chosen differently, when they could have kept you close instead of pushing you away. But now they have no choice but to face the consequences of their own decisions. The lesson they learned too late is a harsh one. When you push away the right people, the ones who have your back, the ones who truly want the best for you, you don't just lose a companion. You lose an ally, a source of strength, and a catalyst for your growth. You lose the person who was there to challenge your comfort zone, to nudge you toward greatness, to see past your flaws and into the potential that you couldn't even see in yourself. When you push away someone who genuinely wants to see you succeed, you aren't just losing their presence. You're losing the power they bring with them. You're losing the very energy that could have propelled you forward, pushed you to new heights, and helped you achieve things you never thought possible. In the absence of an ally, the world becomes quieter, success feels further away, and the weight of their own decisions starts to settle in. They'll go through the motions, pretending that it doesn't matter, but deep down, they'll know that something is missing. They'll try to surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear, people who don't challenge them, don't push them, don't make them uncomfortable. But that's the problem. Those people don't see their full potential. They don't demand more from them because they don't care if they succeed or not. And that will be a constant reminder that what they lost was irreplaceable. But the hardest part of all is that they can't just go back and fix it. They can't call you up and say, "I made a mistake. Come back. I need you." Once you're gone, there's no resetting the clock, no rewinding the tape to the moment before they decided to push you away. That's the lesson they'll carry with them for the rest of their life. Too late, too little. They didn't realize that your value wasn't just in your actions, it was in your energy, your belief in them, and your unwavering commitment to their growth. They didn't recognize it when they had it, and now they'll have to live with the consequences of their ignorance. In the end, they learned that you don't get to choose when you recognize the value of an ally. Sometimes it's only when that person is gone that the magnitude of their presence truly hits you, and by that point, it's too late. The lesson is painful, and the regret lingers, not just for days or weeks, but for years to come. The absence of a true ally, someone who was genuinely invested in their success, will haunt them forever. They may never find another like you, someone who saw their potential, believed in them even when they didn't believe in themselves, and was willing to put in the work to help them rise. So, let them learn their lesson. Let them sit in the reality they've created. Because you've already moved on, growing, evolving, and thriving without them. And one day, they'll look back and realize that the lesson they learned too late wasn't just about losing you. It was about losing the opportunity to become something greater, because the ally they so carelessly discarded was the key to their own greatness. Number 8. They chose comfort over growth. They had a choice: step into the discomfort of growth and elevate their life, or stay nestled in the cozy confines of what was familiar, safe, and predictable. And what did they do? They chose comfort. They chose the easier path, the one that required little from them, the one that let them stagnate without challenging them to evolve. They convinced themselves that they were fine, that everything was just as it should be. But deep down, they knew comfort is a trap, and they had fallen into it. The truth is, growth isn't easy. It never has been. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's full of setbacks and failures, and it often forces you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather not see. It asks you to leave behind what's familiar and step into the unknown. But growth is also where the magic happens. It's where the next level of success is built, where new opportunities arise, where you discover the strength you didn't know you had. And it's the exact thing they chose to avoid. They didn't want to feel the pain of transformation. They didn't want to do the hard work necessary to rise to the next level. So, instead, they clung to what was comfortable, even though it was slowly suffocating them. In the comfort zone, everything stays the same. The routine is predictable. They don't have to challenge themselves, face rejection, or push past their limitations. But here's the catch. Staying in that zone isn't growth. It's stagnation. It's a false sense of security that makes you believe everything is okay, when, in reality, you're simply standing still. They weren't evolving. They were avoiding. And by doing so, they kept themselves trapped in a small version of their life, one where their true potential couldn't reach the surface. But it was easy. It was safe. And that was all they needed to justify their decision. Meanwhile, you were out there stepping into the discomfort, embracing the unknown, and doing the hard work that people like them were afraid of. You knew that in order to grow, you had to stretch beyond your limits, even if it meant failing or facing uncertainty along the way. You saw every challenge as an opportunity to level up, and you took them all, knowing that the pain of growth would be worth it in the end. You weren't interested in staying comfortable. You were interested in becoming the best version of yourself, and that's what made you different. But for them, their decision to stay in the comfort zone didn't just prevent them from growing. It kept them in a cycle of mediocrity. They weren't expanding their horizons or pushing toward something bigger. Instead, they were staying exactly where they were, settling for what was familiar, even though they knew deep down that there was so much more waiting for them if they were willing to go after it. The comfort they craved was nothing more than a cage disguised as safety, and they didn't even realize they had locked themselves in. And now they're stuck. They've built a life based on the illusion of security, and the consequences of choosing comfort are starting to reveal themselves. What once felt like a safe haven is now a prison. They can't move forward. They're afraid to take risks. They're unable to break free from the routine they've built because stepping out of it feels too uncertain, too risky. They're trapped in their own small world, watching as others, like you, rise higher, achieve more, and break through boundaries they couldn't even imagine. The worst part, they'll never admit it. They'll put on a brave face and pretend that they're content. They'll convince themselves that they've made the right choice. But deep down, they'll know the truth. They're not growing, they're stagnating. You, on the other hand, are thriving in ways they can't even comprehend. While they're stuck in their comfort zone, avoiding the discomfort of growth, You're out there in the world, taking risks, facing challenges head-on, and moving forward. And every time they see your progress, every time they witness your growth, it will remind them of the choice they made and the path they decided not to take. You didn't settle. You didn't shrink back in fear. You leaned into the discomfort, and as a result, you are becoming something they could never be. And now, they have to live with the reality that their choice to choose comfort over growth will be their anchor. They've set themselves up in a position where they'll never experience the true expansion that comes with embracing challenges, and they'll never understand the freedom that comes with facing fears head-on. And here's the cruel irony. They had the same opportunity as you. They could have taken the leap. They could have chosen growth, but instead, they chose comfort, and now that path is leading them nowhere. While you're ascending, becoming the person they always knew you were capable of being, they're stuck in the same place, watching from a distance, wondering how they missed the opportunity to evolve alongside you. Their comfort zone is now a trap, and they're the ones who locked themselves in. They thought they were protecting themselves, keeping things simple, but now they're realizing that they traded true fulfillment for safety. And that safety, that comfort, is the very thing that will keep them from becoming everything they could have been. In the end, comfort won't bring them happiness. Growth will, but by the time they realize that, it will be too late. Number 9. You were the spark they couldn't handle. You were the spark they never knew they needed, the catalyst that could ignite their dormant potential, awaken their dreams, and drive them toward a life they could never have imagined. But they didn't understand that at the time. No, they saw your energy, your ambition, your drive, and instead of stepping into it, they recoiled. They were intimidated, threatened by the fire you brought into their life, and rather than embracing it, they tried to extinguish it. They couldn't handle the very thing that could have propelled them to greatness, the spark you ignited. You weren't just a person in their life. You were a force, a presence that demanded attention, change, and action. You didn't just exist in their world. You disrupted it. And that disruption was necessary. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to shake things up, to challenge the status quo, to make them question their own limitations and push past the boundaries they had set for themselves. But for them, that was too much. The truth you represented, both the brilliance and the challenge, was too uncomfortable for them to confront. It was easier to resist it, to push it away, than to face the growth that came with being around someone like you. You were the spark that could have ignited their fire, but they couldn't handle the heat. You pushed them to be better, to reach for more, to stop settling for the mediocrity they had grown comfortable with. You inspired them to reach for things that seemed out of their grasp, to dream bigger than they ever had before, and to recognize their own worth. But instead of stepping into that power, instead of embracing the opportunity to grow, they rejected it. They were too afraid to confront the reality of their own potential, too scared to rise to the challenge you presented. And it wasn't because they didn't want success. It wasn't because they didn't want to evolve. It was simply because the spark you brought, your ambition, your vision, your passion, was too raw, too intense, and too different from anything they had ever known. You made them feel uncomfortable in the best possible way. You made them realize that they had settled for less than they deserved, and that realization scared them. Because change requires effort. It requires vulnerability. It requires breaking down old habits, stepping out of old mindsets, and becoming someone new. And that kind of transformation is hard. Not everyone is willing to face it. But you were ready to burn with it. You were ready to create something extraordinary, and you wanted them to come along for the ride. But instead of rising with you, they resisted the spark. They thought they could keep their world intact, their comfort zone unchallenged, and still experience the success they wanted. They didn't understand that nothing changes if you don't change. Nothing grows if you don't feed it with intention and energy. The spark you provided was meant to be a gift, a tool to help them break free from the cycle of mediocrity they were stuck in, but they couldn't see it. They were too focused on protecting their fragile sense of stability, too committed to their old ways, to let in the fire that could have fueled their transformation. Now, they're left standing in the ashes of what could have been. While you're out there, taking action, creating, evolving, they are stuck in the same place they were when you first came into their life. The spark you gave them didn't disappear. It's still there, waiting for them to recognize it. But they're too busy pretending they don't need it, pretending they don't want it, while you continue to rise and shine, becoming the person they always knew you were capable of being. The irony is that they may never fully realize what they had. They may never understand that the discomfort they felt around you wasn't rejection. It was an invitation to grow. You were never there to harm them or tear them down. You were there to push them, to help them see the greatness they were too scared to pursue on their own. But in rejecting that spark, in dismissing the fire you offered, they're left with nothing but the cold, harsh reality of their own missed opportunity. They'll see you succeed, see you break barriers, see you transform into everything they once thought was impossible. And they'll wonder why it never happened for them. They'll ask themselves, why couldn't I make it work? Why did I let them go? The truth will be clear to them, but it will be too late. They couldn't handle the spark you gave them because they weren't ready to change. They weren't ready to burn with you. They weren't ready to rise to the occasion. And now, while they remain stuck in their own comfort zone, too afraid to take the leap, you're out there lighting the world on fire. The spark you provided was never meant to be easy to handle. It was meant to push them into greatness. But they weren't ready for that kind of change. So now, the world will continue to watch as you blaze a trail, and they'll be left wondering what their life would have looked like if they had only embraced the spark you offered. In the end, it wasn't just about you. It was about them and their refusal to handle the fire that could have changed everything. And that's the thing about sparks. They don't disappear. They don't go unnoticed. But if you can't handle them, they'll burn you up, leaving only regret in their wake. And that, unfortunately for them, is the price of rejecting your light. Number 10. You'll become the standard. They'll never meet again. When you entered their life, they had no idea they were meeting someone who would set the bar for everything that would come after. You weren't just another fleeting moment, another person passing through. They were meeting the standard, the gold standard, the kind of person that would set the tone for what greatness should look like. And they didn't recognize it. They took you for granted, never realizing that you were more than just a chapter in their story. You were the benchmark by which they would measure every person they meet from here on out. Now, as you've moved on, they're left trying to fill a void that can never be filled. Every person they meet after you will inevitably fall short. They might find someone who checks some boxes or offers some semblance of what you gave. But they'll never find the combination of qualities, energy, and potential that you brought to the table. You weren't just someone who filled a role. You were the embodiment of excellence. Your presence elevated them, pushed them, challenged them to become better versions of themselves. You inspired them to do more, be more, and dream bigger. But they didn't appreciate it when they had the chance. Now that you're gone, they'll look for someone else to replicate what you gave, but it won't work. They'll meet people who might seem similar, who might even look the part, but none of them will ever match what you were able to bring. None of them will be able to elevate them in the same way, and here's why. What you brought was unique. It wasn't just your skills, your talent, or your intellect. It was the energy you carried, the way you believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves. It was the way you made them feel seen, heard, and valued, and that can't be replicated. They'll try to convince themselves that they're fine, that they're moving on, that it's just a matter of time before they find someone else who can match what you brought into their life. But deep down, they'll know. They'll feel it in the way their relationships feel shallow, in the way their achievements don't hit the same mark, in the way they keep comparing every person they meet to you. The truth is, they'll never meet someone like you again. You were the bar, the blueprint for what they should aspire to. And now that you're gone, they will constantly be measuring everyone else against you, only to find that no one compares. The hardest part for them will be this realization. They didn't just lose you as a person. They lost the very standard you set. You raised the stakes. You made them see what's possible when you're truly aligned with your purpose, when you're doing the work, and when you're being the best version of yourself. And now, no one else will ever have that same impact. No one will ever make them feel the way you did, because you were the person who forced them to raise their own standards. They'll keep meeting people, they'll keep trying to replace what they had, but it's futile. They'll feel it, the emptiness, the absence, the stark contrast between what they had with you and what they have now. They'll meet people who might be more agreeable, who might be easier to get along with, but they won't push them to grow. They won't challenge them in the ways you did. They won't make them feel as alive, as driven, or as inspired. You were the standard, and now they'll have to live in the shadow of what they lost. But here's the reality. They will never get that standard back. Once someone like you enters their life, it's impossible to go back to what they had before. They'll watch you continue to rise, continue to break new barriers, and continue to be the force of nature you were always meant to be. And they'll know, deep down, that they could have been part of that journey. They could have been standing by your side, but instead, they pushed you away. The cruelest part of it all is that they'll know they made a mistake. They'll know they had the opportunity to stand beside someone who set the bar for what greatness looked like, and they missed it. And while they're stuck in the past, constantly comparing others to the standard you set, you'll be out there achieving even more, becoming more untouchable, and setting new standards that no one will ever be able to meet. You weren't just the best thing that ever happened to them. You were the benchmark for everything that could have followed. And now that you're gone, they'll spend the rest of their life trying to find someone who can match your energy, your potential, and your impact. And they'll come up empty every single time. Number 11. Their comfort zone just became a trap. They thought their comfort zone was a refuge, a place where they could escape the pressures of life and simply exist without having to challenge themselves. But what they failed to realize was that the very thing they thought was protecting them was slowly suffocating them. Comfort is not a sanctuary, it's a trap. And now they're trapped. At first, everything seemed fine. They didn't need to take risks, face uncomfortable truths, or push past their limits. It felt safe, familiar, and effortless. But over time, that security became a cage. The very walls they thought were keeping them secure are now the barriers keeping them from growth, from new opportunities, from the success they once dreamed of. They built their world around comfort, and now it's holding them hostage. While they were busy staying comfortable, you were out there pushing yourself beyond your limits, breaking boundaries, and embracing the discomfort that leads to real growth. You were evolving, expanding, and making strides while they remained stuck, unwilling to leave the comfort they thought they needed. And now, as their world starts to shrink, they'll feel the weight of their decisions. They'll watch as others, like you, continue to rise, realizing that their refusal to step out of their comfort zone has cost them more than they could have ever imagined. They've become prisoners of their own complacency, stuck in a place that promises safety but delivers stagnation. It's too late to go back. The opportunity to step out and grow has passed, and they will spend the rest of their life regretting the comfort they chose over the growth they could have had. Now they're trapped, and the only thing left for them to do is watch as others break free and reach heights they'll never know. Number 12. Your glow-up will be their silent punishment. There's a quiet power in a chosen one's glow-up. It doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops or paraded in front of everyone. It's the kind of transformation that speaks for itself, radiating from within and demanding attention without saying a word. And that's what makes it such a silent punishment for those who underestimated you. As you evolve, as you grow into the person you were always meant to be, the world around you shifts. Opportunities open up, doors that were once closed swing wide, and you start moving with a confidence and clarity that others can't ignore. They'll watch from the sidelines, knowing they had a chance to be part of this, but chose to dismiss you instead. They'll see your success, your growth, your glow, and with every step you take forward, it will serve as a reminder of everything they lost. But here's the thing, the beauty of your glow-up is that it's not for them. It's not about proving anything to the people who doubted you. It's not about rubbing their noses in your success. It's about you becoming the best version of yourself, and in doing so, you leave them in the dust, haunted by their own choices. They'll never be able to replicate the energy you brought into their life, and with every victory you achieve, they'll feel the weight of their mistake, even if they never admit it. Your glow-up will be a constant, silent reminder that they had the chance to rise with you, to stand beside you, but instead, they let you go. And the worst part? They'll have to live with that regret for the rest of their lives, while you continue to shine. In conclusion, the journey of a chosen one is not for the faint-hearted, and those who underestimate you will face the consequences of their actions. While they remain stuck in the past, you will rise, evolve, and glow in ways they never imagined. Your growth will be their silent reminder of everything they lost, and they'll be left with nothing but regret. So, keep shining, keep thriving, and keep proving that your value can never be taken away. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a number 77 in the comments, and share with someone who needs to hear it.